The silence in our apartment is the loudest thing I've ever heard. Declan is gone. Not just out for a walk gone, but erased. His side of the closet is a gaping black hole, a void where his awful collection of plaid shirts and the worn-out university hoodie he loved used to be. Every trace of him, from his toothbrush in the bathroom to the ugly running shoes he always left by the door, has vanished. My phone is heavy in my hand. I keep reopening the last message he sent, half expecting the words to change. But they don't. It's not a long, angry paragraph. It's not even a simple "we're over." It's just a screenshot. A bank transfer confirmation for a sickening amount of money. Beneath it, the caption reads, "For your treatment." That's it. My brain can't seem to connect the dots. It feels like a movie I'm watching, not my actual life. Just a few days ago, he was holding me, telling me we'd get through this together, that he wasn't going anywhere. And now this, just the low hum of the refrigerator for company. How did it get here? How did one tiny, stupid lie, a test, unravel everything so completely? I should be crying, screaming something. Instead, I just feel hollow. Like he took all the air in the apartment with him when he left. Before the silence, there was Declan, and we were good. We were so good, the kind of good that makes you smug. He was a neuroscientist, a quiet, methodical man who saw the world in patterns and pathways. He was the calm to my chaos, the steady hand on my shoulder. I remember the small things most clearly, the precise, almost meditative ritual of him making coffee in the morning, the way he'd pause his reading and take off his glasses to truly listen when I'd ramble on about some petty drama at my marketing job. Our apartment was a perfect map of us. His towering stacks of academic journals on one side of the bed, my chaotic pile of novels on the other. We were engaged. We had a Pinterest board full of rustic wedding venues we couldn't afford and a running, 3-year-long joke about what to name our future hypothetical golden retriever. I was firmly Team Barnaby. He was a staunch advocate for Watson. His dream, the absolute pinnacle of his academic career, was a research fellowship at a prestigious institute in Geneva. It wasn't just a job. It was the place, the one doing the most groundbreaking work on the very things he was dedicating his life to. I remember the day the acceptance letter arrived in his inbox. I think I screamed louder than he did. We celebrated with cheap champagne that gave me a headache and expensive takeout, spreading a map of Geneva on our living room floor and mapping out our future. It was always our future. But to understand Declan, you have to understand the ghost he lived with. His passion wasn't just academic, it was a wound he was trying to heal. Declan's mother had passed away 5 years before I met him, after a long, brutal war with multiple sclerosis. He rarely spoke of it, but one night, after a sad movie, he told me everything. He described, in a low, tight voice, watching the strongest woman he knew slowly become a prisoner in her own body. He talked about the tremors that made her drop her favorite mug, the creeping paralysis, the frustration in her eyes when she couldn't find the words she wanted. He spoke of the crushing helplessness that settled over their family like a thick fog, the smell of antiseptic becoming the scent of his home. That experience was the bedrock of his entire being. It's why he chose his field. He wasn't just studying neurons, he was fighting the monster that had devoured his mother. He had a deep, visceral hatred of illness, not the people who were ill, but the sheer, random, undignified cruelty of it. It was his invisible red line, the one topic that could make his calm, rational exterior crack. It was the source of his deepest pain and the engine for his greatest ambition. And I knew it. I knew every single, heartbreaking detail. I just never, ever understood its weight. As the departure date for Geneva loomed, a familiar, ugly feeling started coiling in my stomach. It was the same icy dread I'd felt years ago when my ex-boyfriend, the one I'd followed to a different city, sat me down and calmly explained that his career needed to be his sole focus for a while. I was collateral damage in his 5-year plan. The memory of that conversation, of packing my life into boxes while he was at work, had left a scar that I thought had healed. But now it was itching. I started seeing signs everywhere. Declan was pulling away, spending late nights at the lab, his conversations filled with the names of Swiss researchers I didn't know and complex concepts I didn't understand. It was happening again. The panic began as a whisper and grew into a roar. He was going to leave me. My rational brain, the small, sane part of me, knew he wasn't. He was preparing for our future. But the terrified, wounded part of me, the part that still felt the sting of being disposable, screamed louder. It demanded proof. It needed a guarantee, an insane act of sacrifice to prove his love was bigger than his ambition. And in a moment of what I can only describe as profound, toxic insanity, I devised a test. It felt so clever at the time, a foolproof way to quell the rising panic. If he would give up his dream for me, then I would know, for certain, that I wouldn't be left behind. So I started to lie. It began subtly, insidiously. I'd complain of a strange tingling in my fingers while we were watching TV. I'd accidentally drop a coffee cup, then laugh it off with a shaky, dismissive hand while my heart pounded with the performance. I became a scholar of sickness, spending hours on medical websites, cross-referencing symptoms, becoming a self-taught expert on the early signs of neurological disorders. I learned the vocabulary, the specific ways to describe the phantom pains, the creeping fatigue, the moments of dizzying vertigo. I was method acting my way into a tragedy, and I was terrifyingly good at it. I was building a cage of symptoms around him, one lie at a time. The final scene took place on a Tuesday night. I'd spent the day psyching myself up, practicing a slight tremor in my hand in the bathroom mirror until it looked convincing. When Declan came home from the lab, smelling of antiseptic and exhaustion, I was curled up on the sofa, wrapped in our thickest blanket. I told him I'd finally seen a specialist, that I'd been hiding the appointments from him because I didn't want to worry him. I let the tears come, real tears born of my own fear and self-loathing, but he saw them as something else entirely. I watched his face as I delivered the line I'd rehearsed 100 times, the words feeling like poison on my tongue. They think it's something degenerative, Declan. Something like what your mom had. His face just crumpled. It was like watching a building implode. All the color, all the light, all the intellectual fire in his eyes just vanished. It was replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated horror, a ghost story come to life. He didn't speak. He just came to the sofa, wrapped his arms around me, and held me so tightly I could barely breathe. The next morning, he made the call. I listened from the bedroom as he spoke to his supervisor in Geneva, his voice hollow as he withdrew his acceptance. He came back into the room, his eyes full of a devastatingly sincere resolve, and said, "We'll fight this. Together, I'm not going anywhere." And in that moment, as the lie settled into its foundation, a sick, twisted part of me felt a wave of triumphant relief. I had won. He wasn't going to leave me. Instantly, Declan transformed. The ambitious researcher I loved vanished, replaced by a full-time, hypervigilant caregiver. It was suffocating. He bought a 7-day pill organizer, the kind his mother used to have, even though I had no pills to put in it. It sat on the kitchen counter, a colorful plastic monument to my deceit. He started cooking these nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory meals he'd read about on some research forum, coaxing me to eat, watching my every move with a hawk-like intensity. Our conversations, once filled with jokes and plans for our future in Switzerland, now revolved around a catalog of my fictional symptoms. How's the tingling today, on a scale of 1 to 10? Did you feel dizzy at all when you stood up? He was a scientist applying his methodical brain to a new, tragic problem, me. The guilt was a physical thing, a constant weight in my chest, but I was in too deep. Every time I thought about confessing, the sheer terror of him leaving, this time for real, and with every justification, paralyzed me. The lie started to unravel in the most mundane, stupid way possible. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was in the shower. I'd been texting my best friend, Priya, earlier on my iPad, and in my carelessness, I'd left it on the coffee table, screen unlocked. I didn't even think about it. In my mind, the conversation was harmless, just me venting my anxieties, just me being me. But it wasn't harmless. It was the bomb. When I came out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around me, the scene in the living room stopped my heart. Declan was standing in the middle of the room, holding my iPad. He wasn't looking at it anymore. He was just staring at the wall, at a framed photo of us smiling on a hike, his expression completely, terrifyingly blank. The screen was still lit up, our chat history on full display. I could see the last few messages from where I stood, the words glowing in the dim light. Me, the test worked. He's not going. He called them this morning and canceled everything. Priya, Imogen, this is insane. Are you serious? You can't keep this up. I know, but just for a little while. I just needed to be sure he'd choose me. And he did. I finally feel safe. He didn't yell. He didn't scream or throw the iPad across the room. The silence that followed was worse than any explosion. He just stood there, perfectly still, for what felt like an eternity, the silence pressing in on me, suffocating me. I opened my mouth to say something, an explanation, another lie, anything, but my throat closed up. He slowly, deliberately placed the iPad face down on the table, his movements precise and controlled, as if he were handling a delicate, explosive device. Then he turned, walked into our bedroom, and quietly closed the door. The soft click of the latch echoed like a gunshot. I spent the rest of the day on the couch, frozen, listening to the muted, methodical sounds of drawers opening and closing, my entire world shrinking to the space of that silent, terrifying apartment. Hours passed. When the bedroom door finally opened, he wasn't carrying a suitcase, but 2 packed duffel bags. He walked past me as if I were a piece of furniture and placed them by the front door. My paralysis finally broke. I scrambled off the couch, my voice a pathetic croak. "Declan, what are you doing? Please talk to me." He turned, and his face was a stranger's. All the warmth, the kindness, the love I had taken for granted, it was gone. In its place was an unnerving, clinical calm. "There's nothing to talk about, Imogen," he said, his voice flat and devoid of any emotion. It was all very clear. "It was a mistake," I pleaded, the words tumbling out in a desperate rush. "A stupid, horrible mistake. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you." He almost smiled, but it was a horrifying, mirthless twitch of his lips. "Lose me," he repeated, the words like ice chips. My mother spent the last 3 years of her life unable to hold a fork. She choked on her own food. She couldn't remember my name on her bad days. That suffering, that absolute degradation of a human being, that was real. He took a step closer, and I flinched. "You took that reality, the most painful thing in my entire life, and you wore it like a costume to see if I loved you enough." Tears were streaming down my face now. "I love you," I whispered. He ignored it completely. He pulled out his phone, his thumbs moving quickly across the screen. A second later, my own phone buzzed on the coffee table. He didn't have to tell me what it was. "There," he said, his voice as cold as a surgeon's scalpel. "That should be enough to cover any fictional medical bills you might have. Consider it a treatment fund for your insecurity." That was the moment I shattered. The cruelty of it, so precise and so deserved, knocked the air from my lungs. He picked up his bags. As he opened the front door, he paused but didn't look back. "I'm deleting your number. I'm blocking you on everything. Don't try to contact me." And then he was gone. The door clicked shut, and the silence he left behind was absolute. The first 24 hours were a blur of denial. I called him, my thumb hitting the contact photo of his smiling face over and over. Each call went straight to voicemail. His mailbox was full. I sent a flood of texts, apologies, explanations, frantic pleas, that all remained stubbornly undelivered. He wasn't exaggerating. He had erased me. By day 3, the panic had curdled into a desperate, frantic energy. I drove to Priya's apartment, a mess of unwashed hair and tear-swollen eyes, ready to beg her to be my ambassador to plead my case. She opened the door, took one look at my pathetic state, and her face hardened with a mixture of pity and disgust. "I can't help you, Imogen," she said, not even inviting me in. "Priya, please," I sobbed. "You have to tell him how sorry I am. It was a sickness, a moment of madness." That's when she delivered the reality check, her words sharp and clean, cutting through my self-pity. "A moment, you planned it for weeks. You researched symptoms, you performed for him. The only sickness here is your insecurity. Do you have any idea what you did? You didn't just lie to him. You took his mother's memory, the most sacred, painful thing in his life, and you turned it into a prop for your pathetic little play. He's my friend too, Imogen. And what you did, it's unforgivable." She closed the door in my face. Defeated, I stumbled back to my car. Later that night, needing some proof that our life together had been real, I started rummaging through the home office, looking for old photos, for anything. That's when I found it, tucked away on a shelf behind some old textbooks. A plain, manila folder with Geneva written on it in Declan's neat, block handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. It wasn't just his fellowship documents. Inside were printouts for a spousal visa application with my name already typed in. There were highlighted apartment listings for 2-bedroom flats near the university, with little notes in the margins like "good light for your plants" and "close to a market." There was a printout of a beginner's German language course at a local community center, with a star next to the Tuesday evening class. He had been planning, in his quiet, methodical way, for me to be there with him all along. He was building a bridge to our future, while I was busy planting a bomb right in the middle of it. The folder slipped from my hands, scattering papers across the floor, the wreckage of a life I had torched with my own 2 hands. It's been 3 months, or maybe 4. The days bleed into one another, marked only by the rising and setting of the sun outside my window. I lost my job. It's hard to craft cheerful marketing copy when your world has shrunk to the 4 walls of an apartment that feels like a tomb. The money Declan sent is still in my account, untouched. It feels radioactive, a constant, glowing reminder of my crime. My life now has a singular, pathetic focus: his digital ghost. He didn't block Priya, and she, out of some lingering, misplaced sense of pity, hasn't blocked me. So I have a window. A tiny, distorted peephole into the life he's living without me. I spend my days and nights in a toxic cycle of refreshing. His Instagram, his Facebook, the university's neuroscience blog, and he is thriving. He went to Geneva after all. The institute must have taken him back. His feed is full of things that make my stomach clench with a pain so sharp it's physical. There are pictures of him hiking in the Alps, the mountains majestic and indifferent behind his newfound smile. There are group photos with new colleagues in a gleaming state-of-the-art lab, all of them looking brilliant and purposeful. He looks happy. He looks free. The worst was a photo from 2 weeks ago. It was posted by one of his new lab partners, a woman with kind eyes and a cascade of dark hair. It's a casual shot taken in a cozy-looking coffee shop. Declan is in the foreground, laughing at something she said. His head is tilted back, his smile genuine and unburdened. He's holding a coffee cup, and his hands are steady. He looks like the man I first fell in love with before I poisoned everything. Every refresh is a new stab wound. Every picture of his new life is another shovelful of dirt on the grave of the one we were supposed to have. I am the ghost now, haunting the edges of his happiness, trapped in the hell I built for myself, one refresh at a time.